dog was home when you left.
You're right.
The cat was home when you left.
You're right.
The fish was home when you left.
You're right.
Your mommy, your daddy, your brother, your sister, the dog, the cat, the fish was home when you left.
You're right.
And that's the reason you left.
You're right.
I left my home.
I left my home.
Pretty much all through childhood, and even throughout most of my time in the Marine Corps, I was planning on doing a full 20 years. I loved my job. I loved working with Marines. When we got back, they made me a squad leader, so I got to experience leadership, and it really felt good to me. Just teaching guys stuff, building that camaraderie. But some stuff fell through at the end. I decided to get out and pursue some education and a different career path.
I was gonna do the full 20, but like I said, met my husband in Pensacola, got married in '99, and when we were in Bremerton, Washington, he got deployed to the Pacific, on the Carl Vinson, it's a carrier, and had our first child. And when he was 4 months old, I decided I was going to get out.
For a very brief time, I thought that I was going to be in it for a long time, or for 20 years, but I realized it wasn't for me, and the leadership in the Army wasn't the best leadership for me at the time in my life.
I don't really have a good reason. I just felt that it was my time to get out. Once I put in for basic preference changes and they all got denied, and something just kept telling me, well, it's time to get out now. So I did. And once I got home, I found out the next day that my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. So to me, that was the calling that was telling me to get out.
But you always have that kind of, missing it feeling and wondering if you should go back or not. When I got back, it was more of like, what do you do now? Because the Marine Corps becomes such a big part of your identity, and I assume any military branch really becomes a huge part of your identity, especially when you're young like that, where the primary focus of your life at that point is figuring out who you are, and then you spend 4 years in the military, and it just becomes, who you are pretty much. So I got out. It was more or less a feeling of, just lost, not really sure where to go.
I know, I guess you just kind of miss the structure of it all, and you realize that civilians are a completely different mindset than military.
My problem is I didn't feel like I had purpose anymore. Like I didn't have anything, there was nothing that I was striving for, that I was actually doing. I wasn't part of anything.
How I felt, that losing my sense of purpose, definitely, because even though I was going to the same job, it didn't feel the same, because I wasn't going to be an active duty service member. I wasn't going to be, who I had been since I was 18, and now here I am 30, and it was a huge adjustment to just say, oh, I'm just a medical assistant now. I'm not a hospital corpsman. I'm not a HM2 anymore. I was called, I was a petty officer second class, so at that time.
It's called ACAP, Army Career Advancement Program. That's what it was. And it was a week long, and it was, this is how you go to an interview. This is how you hold your hands. Make sure you wear a tie. Make sure you don't smoke right before you go to the interview. Make sure you're not drunk when you go to the interview. Stuff like that, common sense. And it was there, we all got to wear civilian clothes, and it was a week, we didn't have any duty, we didn't have to go to PT, we just go ACAP all week.
TAPS was helpful, but I don't think anything really prepares you for the real world.
TAPS didn't prep you for that. They didn't really show you where to go, what resources to use. They said, here's how to make a little resume. Here's how you can word what you did to make it look good and appealing. Good luck. So, yeah, I think the military fails severely in preparing people for mental stability after the military.
And I went through the TAPS, the Transitional Assistant Program, where they try to, tell you about what, ways that you can prepare yourself for civilian life. And I already had a good idea that I was going to stay in the field I was in.
In Massachusetts, by law, every community has to have a Veterans Service Officer. Some of the larger communities and/or cities will have whole Veteran Services departments. Medium-sized towns will have a Veteran Service Officer X amount of hours, and real smaller towns, rural towns, sometimes have a VSO access by appointment only. But every town in Massachusetts is required to have a VSO. And the reason for that is because Massachusetts has a Veteran Services Department, probably unlike any other in the country. And our primary job is to administer the veteran services that are available in Massachusetts under Massachusetts Chapter 115, which is a program to help veterans who are going through financial hardships, whether young or old, or unemployed or temporarily unemployed. And we provide them with money and assistance for paying medical bills, rent, heat, food, etc.
Like my mother didn't really notice any adjustments. I think she tried to keep it normal, thinking that would help normalize me back to the civilian world. But yeah.
I just think when you put your life on the line and you go through, because some of these kids didn't come home, it's always you could be that person where your child doesn't come home, and then
we asked for that.
And then you're lucky that they made it home, but now they're home, and now you have to go through the transition of making it comfortable for them and getting them back into real life, and it's hard for them. It's hard for you as a family too. It's hard for you when they're gone. It affects everybody. It changes everything for everyone. And it's hard to live with them because it was just hard. He came home to me and he lived with me, and I couldn't do it anymore. There was a point where he had to go, and my brother talked him into leaving.
Two sides of that story.
So it's just hard because they change. They're, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they're taught
We're brainwashed.
to be certain people. They're hardcore, and it was hard for me to live with him when he got home.
3 months after I separated, I was wicked low, and I was going to a party with a friend of mine. So I knew I was going to drink heavily, and I knew I was severely depressed. So I left my firearm in the car, unloaded, because I knew I was going to get really drunk. Got really drunk, kind of started going in and out of consciousness. Half the time I was halfway across the world, half the time I was there with my friends. We go back to the car, and I put the gun barrel in my mouth and try to pull the trigger, but it was empty. After that, I decided I needed to get mobile and find an outlet for all the aggression that the Marine Corps instilled in me. And well, not really the Marine Corps' fault. I had it in me. They just reinforced it. I got mobile, found this place, Team Link. This gym to kind of channel my aggression. Made really good friends, and it really helped my reintegration and losing that feeling of being lost.
I don't really hang out with any of the same people really from high school or anything. And I definitely find myself attracted more towards the veteran or someone that's in the same type of line of work. Like I said, like police department, fire department. That's typically the people that I hang out with now.
I left when I was 19 and I came back when I was 24, and people change so much anyway, you know what I mean? So I think that was a big change to me growing up and stuff like that, outgrowing my friends or my friends' interests.
When I moved back to Massachusetts and seeing all of my high school friends had developed, ongoing friendships that lasted and endured, and trying to reconnect and rekindle those relationships wasn't easy because they couldn't relate to me at all because they weren't in the military.
Some friends from the military I definitely kept in touch with. We even became less work-minded and more social-minded. Like we'd play video games together that we both liked, or if they were around, we'd go out and get drinks. But yeah, and my friends at home, the few close friends that I had were very interested in trying to be there to help me. But it's like they babied you the whole time, They needed to hold you with soft gloves. And it's the worst feeling, and it's pity, it's the worst feeling. You don't want your friends to pity you because you did a job that you asked to do.
I'm going through nursing school now, and then hoping to go back to the VA as a nurse.
I want to help. I want to make eventually art therapy. And get, if I have to start going to prisons and stuff like that and being an art therapist there, I start there, or hospitals, things like that. And I got a job offer for an after-school program working within the city of Worcester public schools, after school with kids who are interested in art.
So I'm hoping to tie the 2 degrees together, criminal justice and biology, and work in a crime lab and be a crime scene investigator. And I'm currently a 911 dispatcher for the Sturbridge Police Department.
I don't really suffer from the depression anymore. I'm more integrated, and I'm realizing the struggle that veterans have because I've been there. Now I want to be a clinical psychologist and work with veterans in reintegration and dealing with PTSD, depression, and all that. I want to kind of help them, which I guess kind of puts that identity back in. I'm helping my guys. I'm not letting them down anymore.